Hello and welcome to Fine is a four-letter word. My guest today is Allie Brown. Welcome to the show, Allie.
Hi, Lori. When did we last see each other?
I was thinking of that as we were having the countdown time. We have known each other for many years. I think it was 2006 that we first met.
You were at one of my workshops, I think, right? Because I met you in person.
No, you and I met in person at a Dan Kennedy workshop in
Oh,
Cleveland.
oh my gosh. That's right.
It was
You were
the
on
last
stage.
Renegade Millionaire thing he ever did. You and I went to lunch together. I gave you some gratitude cookies and you asked me if they had crack in them because they were so good.
They were so good. Okay. Wow. I knew it was at an event and I forgot. There weren't many I went to, and those were so good at the time. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And I love that there were not a lot of events at that time. And so you got to connect with so many amazing people
Right. And
at
there
those
were not
events.
that many people in the room, like less than 200, I think.
That was
And
probably my favorite one.
yeah, and almost everybody in that room like went on to do really big things.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Okay, that gives so much context.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, so it's been a long time we've been connected and then recently we just reconnected through LinkedIn. And that's how we ended up here with this show.
Yes. Yeah, this is great. I'm excited.
Yeah, well, I like to give my listeners a little bit of context about who you are and how you've gotten to where you are. So, the first question I have for you is what were the values and beliefs that you were raised with that contributed to you becoming who you are?
Mm. This is we could do a whole show on unpacking this because like so many women now I've really done the personal work on the word trauma is so overused, but like everyone has, their own childhood experience. And like, compared to some people's childhood, I always thought I had an amazing childhood,
Mhm.
loved my parents. I thought they were great role models. I had a nice upbringing, but then we go back and we just start kind of analyzing experiences, which makes me neurotic because now I know my children will do the same with me. And one day they'll be like, when my mom, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, every little thing I say. But so the what's interesting though is the pluses and minuses both combined to create who I was, which is interesting.
Mhm.
So, and I think, viewing it through this lens is healthy when you can, in that the positive role models were, I saw my dad worked a lot. My mom stayed home, which I loved as a child. Like back then it was, relatively accessible for, parents to do that. And one
Mhm.
parent didn't have to work like today. And I remember her spending a lot of time with me and doing like art and reading and crafts and like the things that I loved. And then my dad worked all the time. And I don't remember ever like really questioning it. It was just what dad did. Like
Right.
dad went to work and came home later and then looked startled that he had three children and would, like built himself a den
How
in
did
the
they get
basement.
here?
This was the 70s, everyone. And we didn't
Right.
complain. Like the dad would build himself a den and go in there and maybe have a little nipper after work and, put on his records and his vinyl and chill. And so I had a lot of time alone though once my brother and sister were born, and I found I just thrived alone and I loved being alone, and I did a lot of creative projects and learned to entertain myself and created like a little magazine. I remember when I was like 6 years old and like, just had all that time. And then so, I think that helped shape, that kind of became my superpower, was like having an idea and then creating it, right? And then for being forced to be alone. I mean, not forced, like I wasn't locked in my room
Mhm.
or anything, but I just had to, keep yourself busy. Then there was no internet. You had to go projects and crafts and
Yeah.
things, call a friend, whatever. You really had to be very self-sufficient. And that, all those skills um really led to me wanting to work for myself, like which I didn't realize till my 20s, till I got into the real work world. And I was like, really, like I'm like, what we do and how I'm supposed to fit in. And I never even thought of working for myself, but it became the obvious choice.
Yeah. Did you learn from your dad that hard work equaled success?
It's interesting because I never even considered entrepreneurship. Trying to think.
Was there anybody in your world that was an entrepreneur that you could look at
No,
as a model?
no.
No.
And he had, it was a rough business. He had his MBA, but then ended up going back to work with his dad in a fencing and gates construction business. And they did high end jobs, but it was
Yeah,
all on.
labor.
So I did, unconsciously probably absorb that, like a lot of that work, that work equaled success for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah, and so then when you went on to start your own business, and you did that pretty young.
Yeah, my last job was in New York City, and I think I was 27 or 28, and that's when I was like, all right, I got to try this now. I've just got to get out of here.
Mhm. Yeah, and did you again, like who did you use as a role model?
You know what's great? Okay, this is crazy, but I didn't have any, and I'm kind of glad at the time, and I'm
Mhm.
glad there was no one to compare myself to. And so I read a lot of books, and I literally went to Barnes and Noble, I remember, and bought a book that said how to make $80,000 a year as a freelance writer. Later updated to how to make $100,000 a year as a freelance writer. Like I saw they cut Bob Bly,
Yes.
that was the author. Okay, so you remember he was
Yeah, I
copywriting author.
remember him.
And I literally bought that book and like followed the steps and like kind of got some work going on the side. And I would just, buy books or, order things online and learn. And compared to today, I think that was a blessing because I had nothing to compare myself to. I just did my best every day and woke up and just did what I could from where I was with what
Mhm.
I had. And I think that was a good place to be for me.
Yeah, and we didn't have the internet the way it is now to again be comparing yourself to, oh, well, that person's doing so much better.
Yes.
Maybe I should be doing these nine other things than the things that I am focused on that
Yes.
disperse your attention.
Right. Or maybe I need this person's, 12-step course to do this. How I can't do this alone. I need their course.
Yeah.
I need their mastermind. I need the, I,
Right.
I need to
Right.
watch all this stuff. And it's great that we have all this stuff to role model now, but at the time I know that would have drove me insane. Like I would have probably stopped.
Mhm.
I would have.
Yeah. Well, it's easy to get, like I said, it's easy to get distracted. And so you built this empire and you evolved a lot because I watched it and I met you at another point in the evolution beyond that first part. And it's been really interesting. And then you were just telling me before we started recording, you reached a point where obviously the show is called Fine is a 4-letter word, where everything was fine. And from an outsider's perspective, it actually was looking much better than fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what happened?
Yeah. So I feel like I've already gone through like 9 career lives in the last 20, and it's been about over 20 years now when you look at when I got into the internet marketing and stuff. So I'll give a quick timeline. In fact, like Erica on my team did this cool visual when I do a webinar or something, and I realized I needed like a timeline. It has like a little New York City Empire State Building, and then like
Okay.
moved to California
I love it.
with the
Yes.
starter husband, and
Yes.
just it has all my little journey like in visuals. I'm like, wow, that's my life. But the career side is, I started that freelance writing business, and then I had a lot of people just asking me, hey, how are you getting clients and how are you doing this? And I was just doing what I had figured out. I said, oh, I'm happy to share with you. And I had been using also email to an extent, like an
Mhm.
AOL group. Like, don't do this. This
Yes.
is not how you start an email list. But like, it was a group in AOL group email. And I sent out a newsletter just giving a little marketing tip and then, talking about my services at the end. And at the time,
Mhm.
people were like, wow, yes, sign me up.
Because no one was doing that.
Oh, no one was doing it. They had nothing in their inbox. And then I just jumped on this because I was working out of my little apartment, you know, and eating bagels for dinner. And I had no money, but it was so much fun when I think back, like the simplicity of it. And then people started asking me, how are you marketing with email? And then I learned about this thing called ebooks. And so I literally, again, I bought an ebook on how to sell ebooks online and put what I knew into an ebook and started selling it and
Mhm.
started making money online. And it was such a game changer. And I mean, this was true at that time, passive income. You didn't have to
Yeah.
be posting reels and
Right.
all this stuff today. I don't even know how people found me. Like it was, part email, but then I don't even know, like my page just moved up the search rankings by nature, I guess. And then I had people start saying, "Hey, can you teach me how to do it? I don't want to read the ebook." And so, long story short, the evolution was into, then I did teleseminars, if you remember those. I was just on the
Mm-hmm.
phone.
Yep.
And then, it's like a group phone call. And then I moved into doing live workshops. And then I had a lot of women following me. Not that I said this is for women and or anything, but they just gravitated toward me because I think I just had a different flavor.
Yeah.
My attitude was a little different. I knew that, people were humans and I was a little more warm and fuzzy,
Well, because
but
the other,
bringing all of
the
that hard ass stuff I got from the Dan Kennedy world, right? But I kind of
right,
tweaked
right.
it. I
I was
tweaked
going
it.
to say, because most of the other people who were doing what you were doing and who were building businesses in the online world were guys.
They were.
And
They were using
they had
language like,
the
here's my
right,
big balls guarantee.
right, the bro language. Exactly. And you, I have to mention this because I still can see it in my mind. The big binder, because I bought it from you, about you were the e-zine queen.
Yes, that's right. That was my little moniker to be remembered. Yes,
Yes.
and I had info products that you would buy them and I would ship them to you. We had
Yes.
CDs,
I
we had
had the big
DVDs,
binder. Yep. All the
I
whole
think we
thing.
called it a home study kit.
Yes.
Like it was
Yes.
wild.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so women were gravitating to you because you were one of the only women in the space at the time.
Yes. Yeah. And so then they said, well, can you coach me? Can you talk with me about this? I'm like, well, okay, sure. I actually enjoy that more than just writing. So yeah, it was gangbusters. There was a blur of a time between, I'd say, 2006 and 2010 that was just insane growth. Um, I mean, insane following. It was really fun, but I was kind of worried sometimes if I said the spaceship's leaving Tuesday, some of you would believe me. Like you would follow me out of the room. Like it,
Yeah.
I was kind of like,
Yeah.
what, it was very surreal
Mm-hmm.
at that time too, to be kind of coming into this place of such leadership,
Yeah.
and power and people just, joining what you had. And, I just kind of kept going with it. I'm like, oh, they like this. Let's build this. They like this. Let's build this. And then I had visions of doing, I did bigger events and, we had some fun. I had like
Mm-hmm.
acrobats in Vegas and, we
Mm-hmm.
brought in like really top tier speakers and I kind of got to play and do everything I dreamed of. And the pivotal point was actually a show that I filmed called Secret Millionaire, which some
Oh
of you
yeah.
may remember. This was
Uh-huh.
on ABC for
Yeah.
several years. It was a primetime show. So this is very, very unusual, right? Compared to now. There's 2,000 channels of content and all this.
Right.
It was on ABC. It was
Yep.
primetime. They took a, quote, uber successful person out of their normal life. You lived on welfare wages for the week. You worked with some people in hard situations and organizations, and then gave $100,000 of your money to the people that you chose or organizations that you really felt you wanted to help.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember us getting the call, and I'm thinking, this is going to be something that changes my life. I also had to sign on knowing that it possibly would not air. You're signing a 20-page contract saying, when your money's gone, it's gone. You can't just take it back if the show doesn't air. Like they, and it makes total sense, right? Like,
Sure.
and I want to give those producers credit because I know there's so many shows that are just smoke and mirrors, and that show was so authentically produced, and the experience was absolutely real. And so you could still watch this. It's on, I think on Amazon and iTunes, you can get it. I'm about ready to show it to my kids, I think probably this year, because they're 12 and they'll really
I was
kind of
just going to
take it
ask, how
in.
old are they now? Yeah,
They're
12. Okay.
12. Yeah. And I kind of keep forgetting about it. And then I was cleaning my office when I moved last year and I found the original DVD that the producer handed me before it aired. And
Mm.
she said, I want you to watch this. And she said, I want to make sure you're happy with it. And I want you to see this before it's aired. And so on the show, at the end, the last scene is you see me riding the bicycle to my big house at the beach, and it's all like I definitely fit the script, right? My life and what
Mm-hmm.
was supposed to happen. What they don't show is me going inside And just after that week of what I had experienced, just like falling on the floor and just saying, God, I'm just use me.
Mm.
It's time to use me. I've reached all my goals. Like, I've built these amazing things, and I know I've helped a lot of people, but I feel like there's something different. I feel like there's something different coming. Um, that is where it began, like a slow process of me starting to kind of question things. And it was really hard because I was by myself in these thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And those of you listening, you may be at a point, even if you're working with a coach or mentor, that person may be so invested in your optics of success. You following? Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that even they don't want to support you making changes.
Right.
And
Because it may make them look bad.
yes, yes. And that's all I'm going to say on that. I had a mentoring relationship that one day I will talk about. It's still hard to. It was not Dan. It was someone else I worked with that kind of kept talking me back into the model, work harder, do more, now let's go for 10 million. I mean, like, it was, and
Yeah.
I was crying like every day. I had every 5 minutes of my day scheduled. I just thought, well, this is what you have to do
Mm-hmm.
to get to this point. And I almost thought that, wow, I've been given all these blessings and I'm obviously on this track. Like, I feel like I am denying or like betraying God maybe. And what I had prayed for was here. And now who am I to say, oh, I don't like this anymore, or I want something different? Because I had a
Mm-hmm.
large team. I was feeding them and their families. I had clients who loved the programs and were getting great results. But it was this huge, huge pull in my soul, just that was pulling me elsewhere. And so I gave myself permission to just kind of do an audit of everything. And then two things I did that I want everyone to listen to, because I think it'll benefit you no matter where you are. So you first separate the numbers from your emotions, right? It's always look at the numbers, because it'll back you up if you make a decision, or if it doesn't back up your decision, you still need to be aware of it. You need to know what's going to happen. We don't like that part. So I'm looking at the numbers though, and there's something called, many of you have heard of it, it's called Pareto's principle, the 80-20 rule.
Right.
What are the 20% of your products or services that are generating 80% of the income, 80% of the impact? You may find that 20% of your offerings really is most of the business in the end.
Mm-hmm.
And the other of it is a huge pain. It's all the people who lost their password and their credit card declines, and like,
Right.
the big programs and the lower end stuff. And, these people, and there's plenty of people for them to learn from now. So I'm going through this all in my mind. I'm like, there's 100 coaches knocking me off anyway. Why don't they go learn from them? Come to me when you're at this level. So I started to see, oh, I want to work with the women at the higher levels. Like that's who I love. This is my jam. Once you're over 7 figures, it's not even about the money. It's about who you've become, where you are
Right.
in the process,
Yeah.
the decisions you have, the opportunities you have, the challenges you have. And it's a whole different game. And that's so my thing. Michael, what do I do with the rest of this? So if you were with me during the time or following me, you saw just very slowly, like as much as I could like emotionally handle, I started to kind of like cut cords, shut down a program, stop selling this thing. I started to pivot my language and then say, I was talking more about business and leadership and the
Mm-hmm.
overall things. Um, and the moment I started shifting, people picked up on it, and some of them were not happy. It was
Mm.
really interesting. They wanted more marketing tips. We got like hate mail.
What
We
they
don't like
wanted
that
you
you're
to
talking
stay where
about
you
leadership.
were
Yeah,
because that was comfortable for them.
yes, that and this is really hard. By the way, if you're a personal brand. So all of you out in the influencer world, you'll see this, and it's even worse today because they can get at you a lot more on social. Back then, they had to write a letter, email us. Um, it you will have people who, and you can't hate them for it. Just be like, bless you on your way.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to follow that version of you, and then that version of you won't fit them, and then you're going to attract people who are attracted to that next version of you and your brand and your offerings and what you stand for and your positioning. And so little by little, you'll see that. And then the hardest one to shut down was the biggest program, because it generated a lot of revenue. It required a lot of team. But I remember being on one last like Q&A call, and, I could say this now because it's what, like 12 years later, but I was like, I'm like doodling on the call. Like I'm just so
Like you're
checked out
just checked
because
out. Yeah.
these were like beginner questions. And, we had other coaches that were great, but they wanted to be on the call with me and they
Of
wanted me to
course.
answer. And I was like, and we had a system where you could like loop people through, like, so it was like a queue. We used some type of platform for it. At the time, it was really cool because it was all just on the phone. And this one woman, I'm just going to call her like Sherry or something. She kept coming around, and finally I wrote my team. I'm like, get Sherry off, like get her off the
Hmm.
line. I cannot talk to Sherry again. And you have to like, what do you mean? Just disconnect her? I'm like, just disconnect her. Just
Yes. Yes.
disconnect her off the call. I am going to lose it. I'm going to like end up on the news if I have to talk to her again. And I was like, then I got off that. I'm like, wow, okay. I need to obviously do a mental check-in now. And that was the beginning of really disassembling. And then, the quick ending to that was, I want to say that also the hardest part was talking with my team that,
Mm.
me, I
Yeah.
want to change my life and do some different things. So I don't need all of you anymore. Basically, right? Like if you were
Right.
going to
Yeah.
cut right to it, that's what it felt like to them. I still have some people who do not talk to me today, even though I tried to get them freelancing or arrange,
Hmm.
for other introductions. It just still, it is what it is. And
Yeah.
it just is what it is. Nothing can stay the same forever. And I am so much happier now. I can't tell you, like, oh, I had twins, by the way, too. And that kind of changes things.
Yeah.
When you're there holding these babies, and you know, I was one of those people, it's like, I'm just going to pop them out and go right back to work. Like, I had no idea. And I still apologize. All the moms, I was like, just work harder, get a sitter. I'm like, I had no idea the emotional load you carry, even when they're not with you. Like,
Hmm.
even right now, as I'm talking to you, I'm like somehow anxious about my children today at school. And they're just always on your heart.
Right.
And so I made dramatic change to only work with a handful of clients for a few years. And I know I'm blessed that I could do that. And that led to what I do today, which is I do two things. One is I coach privately with women typically it's 7 figures or higher. I do work
Hmm.
with some women under if they're building something or working on something deep. And then I launched and run what's called the Trust, and that's my community for 7 and 8 figure female founders. And that's
Great.
that's what I do today.
When you had the twins, was that around the same time that you were letting go of all the other stuff?
It
Did it
was
was
a
did it
catalyst.
coincide?
I'll tell you, that pushed me
Okay.
over the edge. I'll tell you, like, and it was a good reason, even optically, to make changes,
Hmm.
right? Because people
Yeah.
expect some changes, and so that's when I did start dismantling and explaining I wanted to spend more time with my kids and all that. And I think those babies were brought to me. And by the way, these were, I'm not going to tell the whole story, but this was not a planned pregnancy.
Hmm.
I had some friends going, "Oh, did you do IVF?" I'm like, "No." Like what? God was like laughing. God was like laughing. Like, let's give her twins. Let's see what happens now.
Well, she
And
won't pay attention otherwise, so
yeah,
we
it's
need
it's
to.
almost like that last thing, and at least it was a good thing. It didn't give me a heart
Hmm.
attack or
Right. Right.
something. But man, that just makes it really clear that, and I think age, because by that time I was just crossing the mark on 40 into my 40s, and you get so clear what you're interested in and what you're not interested in.
Yes. Yes. I was just having a conversation with a friend recently, and we're way past 40 now, but she was saying I feel like I'm finally at the point where if I don't want to do something, I'm not going to do it. Like I don't want to do things that I don't want to do anymore.
Yeah. And you don't need to explain. Like sometimes
Right.
it's, you try, but you just, not everyone will understand your decisions. And that's hard for a lot of women.
Yes, and it's okay if not
Oh yeah.
everybody understands. It's not
Yeah.
about them. You're the only one who's going to care about your life as much as you do.
Yes. Yes.
It,
I'll tell you, this is just things like this real quick are why I went back to individual coaching, because the
mm,
women going through this stuff, don't plug yourself into a program. Get someone who is um, there's a word I'm looking for, and I'm
yeah.
unbiased. Thank you.
Hmm.
Unbiased sounding board for you to think through things, get it up on the wall. What's going to really happen if we shut this down? What's going to really happen if we change this? Where's your market going? Let's look at your profitability. You need someone on your side to
Hmm.
talk through, which I'm finding is just more and more needed these days.
Yeah. Well, you had mentioned before we hit record that you were asking yourself for permission to change. Like, do I have my own permission? And I think a lot of times people go around asking everybody else their opinions and what do
Yes.
you think I should do and where and looking for permission. Actually it's funny. I remember Dan Kennedy talking about how humans are essentially wired to walk around with an umbilical cord in their hand looking for a place to plug in. That was a Dan
Yep.
Kennedy quote.
Yep.
And
Yep.
we're still doing it.
And you see that a lot. I see people joining communities, not not like the trust, because we don't have a protocol. We're not teaching anything, right? It's not
Mhm.
trainings or anything, but like you see people kind of plugging into a system and that's their cult for like a few years and then
Yep.
they'll leave. And don't get
Right.
upset when they leave, by the way. That's just how these things work. It's about
Yeah.
3 years and then they'll
Right.
go find a
Right.
new group. I tell people, don't lose it. Try to keep them, but do your best. But the nature of these things is people move on. They do want to keep plugging into new things. It's exciting, learn
Yeah.
new things, right? But it's almost an abdication of responsibility. It's an abdication of making your own decisions.
Yeah.
And just look out for it. Plug in when it feels good, but feel free to unplug when you know you're going through something and you need some time alone.
Or what you plugged into doesn't feel like you belong to it anymore,
Right.
or maybe you never belonged but you felt like you did and now you've outgrown it and it's okay to step
Mm-hmm.
out.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So you had to give yourself permission to change. Did How did that come? How did that knowledge that you were the only one who had to give yourself permission come to you?
Back to being a kid and being in my room and making my own projects. I just like
Mm.
it literally was like it was like coming back full circle. It was just coming back full circle, and then also knowing that that was my jam. Like I am so, because I sat there and did think, okay, what is the one thing I can do where I know no one could copy, and like
Mm-hmm.
they're not in my lane. Like if I had to pick a lane and I am that category of one,
Yep.
because I was starting to get so many people also copying things and modeling, and it was the big boom at the time, and they weren't necessarily copying word for word, but it was the zeitgeist, was all the online marketing stuff. And that's when I'm like, I feel like everyone's peeing in the pool and I'm getting out. That's what I think.
Yes.
Yeah, like it was just getting weird and gross. I'm like, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
dancing in videos, and I'm going over here. And my one thing where I knew no one could compete at that time was coaching the 7 and 8 figure women. Like
Mm-hmm.
that that confidence is what gave me what I call the sharp right turn, where it's like, you're on this highway and then you're with everyone else and you're like, voop, like I'm exit stage right over here. That's where
Yeah.
I'm going.
What gave you the confidence to think that you were the one to do that?
The
And
results.
were there tools and techniques that you used to help you get there? Like, were you in
Hmm.
therapy? Were you using
Um,
meditation? Were you journaling? What was helping
this
you?
sounds so crazy, but I freaking listened to them. I listened to them and helped them think through things on their own, which is what a
Mm,
real, the word
yeah.
coaching has been used now in so many ways, and it's been kind of, cannibalized a bit. But really being that sounding board, reflecting back to them so they get clarity. And then I had all this knowledge from working with women in every type of business model you can think of and every type of revenue level, just all these different situations. And then I could offer then what I had witnessed and experienced and
Mm-hmm.
help them make a decision. I just always knew, like, I'm the one that the friends call if they need to think through something or
Yep.
talk through something. I'm a good listener. I won't tell you what to do unless you ask me, but I will give you, okay, it sounds like there's 3 options, for example. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
like A, you can leave him. B, you tolerate it. C, you
Right.
get married. I don't know. I'm like, I help
Right.
like break it up and de-emotionalize it,
Yeah.
for them to kind of think through things, and then we go through their emotions, and then we kind of put it back together into like a short-term or long-term plan. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
who I am.
Yes. Yes. Okay. And so, but you didn't have somebody doing that for you.
No, I didn't. I
Interesting.
mean, I had some great coaches when I was in the circle with Dan and Bill and those guys, but it was very, here's what you do with your business
Mm-hmm.
and you want to double
Right.
this and that. um I will say I had a great exposure to what true life coaching is with a woman I met when I was in New York who studied under Thomas Leonard. I don't know if you're familiar with him. So
No.
he was around, he passed away unexpectedly in early 2000s, but he was like the father of a coaching method that was really about listening. It was about like getting rid of your tolerations, getting really clear on what you want in a way that I had not heard before. And I learned a lot about coaching on when I discovered his stuff and really
Hmm.
dug into it. And, that's really the only place I could think of.
Hmm. Okay. Are there practices that you use today to keep yourself grounded?
I have to say, my faith has become a much larger part of my life, probably than when I met you. I think I was
Yeah.
really having fun in my 30s.
Right. Sure. As we do.
Yeah, I was looking for something, obviously. And I was, uh, trying everything at that time too, from like meditation and going with a friend to like, yoga. I was just like kind of taking it all in and trying things on. It's what we do as we grow up, right? And then the last several years, I think since COVID just kind of shook me up because I was like, where's the world going and
Hmm.
what's happening? And I have children. And, we were all, remember those moments it felt really scary? Then sometimes you're like, okay, this is going to wind down. It's fine. But then there were moments you're like, should we like be building a bunker underground? Like, like I just didn't know. And that is when I'll share that like New Year's Day 2022 also was a hard time for me in my marriage. And I woke up that morning and I just heard a voice that said, go to church.
Mm.
And I had not been to church since I was a child. And there was a church down the street from us that I knew had a good reputation. I kind of checked it out online. I'm like, okay, it looks modern, but like solid. And like the kids would probably like it. So let's go. And I walked in there and I sat in the back with a coffee, kind of like it was good because it's big enough you could be anonymous, but not
Hmm.
not a mega church, but I could sit in
Yeah.
the back and just started crying. And the music unlocked me, like everything unlocked me. And that started a whole new journey to like my faith and how I am empowered through that and realize I don't have to do everything through me.
Hmm.
It's not
Hmm.
me. It's tapping into the higher power, which I was aware of before, and I would pray and I would, tap into that before, but now it's just in a really great place. And then, my clients have kind of picked up on that, even though I don't talk about it a lot.
Hmm.
And, it's really great that sometimes they want to talk about it too. And we bring it into our work together when it's
Yeah.
appropriate. And if they want that, I
Hmm.
think that's just given me so much faith and also in this world today, which is still continues to be nuts. Like, I take in too much information. I have to just shut it off sometimes. You'll see me online and then I'll disappear and then I'll come back.
Hmm.
It's mental health. I get into it for a while on Instagram and have fun.
Yeah,
And then I'll just kind
absolutely.
of, I'll go cocoon for a while. It's my nervous system. And, I just encourage everyone to do that. You have to find what works for you to ground yourself, to know that there is a higher power waiting to assist you.
Hmm.
And that's helped so much.
I feel like everybody, people, let's just say in general, will step into that when they're ready, but not everybody's ready at the same time. And not maybe some people will never be ready, but
Yeah.
when you do find it and you do allow yourself to step into it, it changes a lot of things.
It's just brought me a lot of peace. And that's what I
Hmm.
tell people. If they don't understand, I just say, it's brought me peace. And no one can argue with that.
Right. Right.
I'm
Yeah.
so at peace. It's brought me so much comfort and peace and strength. And I love talking about it when I can.
Mm. Well, I love that we finally got to have this conversation. Before we go, so now we've talked about peace. We're gonna flip over to what do you do? What song do you listen to when you need an extra boost of energy, which isn't necessarily the opposite of peace, but
Right, right. To like, but turn up the dial, right? Like
turn
to
up the
elevate. So
volume. Yeah.
I wrote down two songs because she put me on the spot because I didn't get this information before. So right before, and so I grabbed my phone because I'm like, people, God, there's so much weight to this. It's like one song that's representing me, and like, what if there's a bad word in it? I don't know.
It could change.
So
Oh,
yeah.
my listeners are used to the bad words.
So I have two. I actually have one. One is a Christian song that I have to share because
Okay.
it is like the most uplifting. Like I get fired up. It's from Brandon Lake's new album. If you don't know him, there's such amazing worship music out now that's like
Yeah.
it's rock and it's like uplifting, and you could just, the frequency is high, and it's Brandon
Mhm.
Lake, and it's I Know a Name. And
Okay.
that's my favorite like uplifting song. When I'm working out or like just want to get fired up, I listen to old school stuff like the Beastie Boys
Yes.
and stuff that I grew up with,
Uh-huh.
that
Yeah.
just like
Right. It
not
transports
none
us
of this
back
like,
to an
yeah,
easier
none of this
time.
super electronic stuff. It's
Correct.
like, they have some electronic, but it was like more of that rock and drive. And I love 70s and 80s rock. Like I'm just kind of,
Yeah.
I'm in the endless loop of that all the time.
Yeah. That's what I listen to when I'm working out too.
Totally. It was we sound old saying this, but yeah, we're not just getting older. The music does suck right now, really, a lot of it. So it was like real instruments and real music and
Mhm.
people that they gave their life for that art. They
Yeah.
that was their whole world, and not necessarily to be famous. It was like to make really good music. And
Mhm.
those are the songs I love.
Yeah. Okay. So is there a specific song or are we just going to go with 70s and 80s rock?
This is
You
cliche,
said
but I
you
love
wrote down 2
Journey. I love
songs.
Journey. Oh, the Beastie Boys song. Probably like
Oh, the
Sure
Beastie
Shot,
Boys?
Beastie Boys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably like Sure
Okay.
Shot. Probably if you need the
Okay.
song. Yep. Yeah.
Okay. But
So
you said Journey. Journey is, speaking of, they're coming back out for like another
I
farewell tour.
heard it's their last. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen them live
No.
in the last
No.
so I
I
saw
don't
them
think I have.
live 2010. I was at a corporate event and they actually paid for Journey. And I remember seeing it on the list and I'm like, is this like a cover band? Like
Right, right.
Journey to the Stars or Journey?
Yeah.
Sounds
Right.
like Journey.
Something.
I'm like, this is freaking Journey. I'm like, it's Journey.
And was
Journey
Steve
was
Perry
there.
still with them?
No, but it's this is 2010. So it was
Okay.
Arnell, the new
Yeah. Yeah.
singer.
Yeah.
And I didn't have high expectations because I'm always like, no one's going to be Steve Perry, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was amazing. Amazing. If you have a chance to go see him, he was like jumping up on the amps and like
Yeah.
he had such presence, which balanced out, those guys are getting old in the back,
Mm-hmm.
Neil
Mm-hmm.
Sean and the guys. And I would highly recommend going to see them. I bet I'm going to try to go because
Okay.
maybe if you want to go, everyone call me. We'll do a group or
Yeah, that would
something.
be so fun. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Lastly, Allie, if somebody wants to continue this conversation with you, where is the best place for them to find you?
So alliebrown.com, everything comes from there. That's real
Okay.
easy. And I'm on Instagram, Allie Brown Official. Instagram really is me.
Okay.
LinkedIn, I have my team helping with, but messages will get to me on LinkedIn if you want to
Okay.
write on LinkedIn too.
Great. I will put links to that in the show notes.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for
fantastic.
joining
This
me
was
today.
awesome. I'm so glad to reconnect, especially like it's the kind of like reconnection, like this is your life kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
especially when someone you met so long ago, So this was wonderful
Yeah.
to hear from you and do this.
Well, thank you again for joining me on Fine is a 4-letter word. Allie and I go way back. I remember when I met her the first time, in my mind, she was like a rock star because she was pretty established with what she was doing. And I was just getting started. It's awesome to see who she's become since and to get the behind the scenes scoop on what she had to go through to get to where she is today. Here are some key takeaways from our conversation. Number 1, being good at something doesn't mean you're meant to keep doing it forever. Allie was exceptional at what she built. That was the problem. The success made it harder to admit she'd outgrown it. Just because something works doesn't mean it still fits. Number 2, give yourself permission to pivot. No one else can do this for you. The moment Allie realized she was the only one who could grant herself permission to change was liberating. Looking outward for validation or consensus can leave you stuck. People will resist your growth because it disrupts their comfort. The courage to say, I want something different, has to come from within, even if others don't understand. Number 3, the numbers don't lie, but they also don't tell the whole story. Separating emotion from data gave Allie clarity. The 80-20 rule showed her what was profitable. Her nervous system showed her what was draining. Both mattered. Number 4, seasons of solitude are incredibly powerful. Allie traced her creative resilience all the way back to childhood afternoons spent inventing projects on her own. Those solo hours turned out to be foundational to, yes, her entrepreneurial success, And then also to her ability to navigate reinvention and find peace and clarity later. When that inner peace grows, so does your capacity to lead, serve, and thrive at a higher level. And number five, not everyone is meant to come with you to the next level. Whether it was clients, team members, or followers who resisted her pivot from marketing tactics to guiding high level leaders, Allie pointed out that every reinvention has an unfollow cost. Don't be afraid or resentful when some people don't come along. Bless them, release them. Your next chapter is calling new people in. As you let these insights marinate, remember, walking away isn't failure. Staying when you know better is.